Hello, Reed. Welcome to The Root of Our Health. It is such a pleasure to have you on the show.
Hey there, Elizabeth. So glad to be here. Thank you.
Yes. So I would love, let's just kick this off. I would love for my audience and me, of course, to get to know you a little bit better. So give us, let us know what your background is, how you, came to be where you are at today.
Okay, quick background check. So way back when in the last century, I was a paralegal, an environmental law paralegal. I was a conservationist out there saving the planet, air, birds, water, trees, bees. And by the end of the 1990s, I started realizing how bad it was for people too. So bad for the environment and animals and saving vernal pools and things like that. But then I said, well, what's going on with people? What's it doing to people, including me? Because I didn't have any health problems, but I didn't want anything sneaking up on me. And I've always liked to be in control of my own health and surroundings and things like that. So I went to work in a wellness center in Southern California, and it was the most amazing experience, changed my life. And I started helping people. I was taking classes in nutrition and personal training, just getting, really into the working with people thing. Now, I was out riding my motorcycle one day in the mountains and feeling all this freedom and joy and peace that I get from doing that. The wind blowing through where my hair is supposed to be, And so I'm thinking about the poor folks back at the office, and everyone coming in the door pretty much had been chronically ill for some time, had been desperately searching for someone to help them. They were coming to us for more or less alternative type of care, but they all had one thing in common: having seen 6, 8, 10, 12 different practitioners and still had their problems. And me having never really been to the doctor except for a few, sports boo-boos and maybe a couple of motorcycle accidents. I had some dental work, but never, I didn't know what was going on with medicine. So I was surprised. I'm out there riding, I'm going, hey, this sucks. This is a ripoff what's going on. And so back at the office, I started telling people, I'm going to be the last person you need to see. And I had no clue how, and I was kind of naive and stuff. I wasn't going to become a doctor. I knew that's not the way I wanted to go. So, but I went to work and I worked really, really hard. I spent 10 years in that office, 10 years. And I just fell into being able to run lab work. So that's what I got well known for. I was the nutritionist who did lab work, through the doctors there in the office. And I ran thousands of labs on thousands of people. And I had some good mentorship, but I also made my own observations about who was getting better and who wasn't. And it should be no surprise. I'll finish up by saying this: would be no surprise to anyone listening. When you work closest to the underlying causes and conditions, you do better. You're going to get well. And the other thing, though, that's not so intuitive is that people with the exact same complaints, whether it's Hashimoto's or the thyroiditis stuff, or it's chronic fatigue or fibromyalgia, that was really popular back then. ADD, migraine headache, you name it. The people with all these complaints, some of them very similar, so like 10 people with migraines, let's say, when you went upstream far enough, there was all these different causes. There's never one root cause. And I know the name of our program here is the Root of Our Health podcast, and I love that. But I've kind of, just finished by saying, I kind of gave up on the term root cause because, again, there's so many and they're all having an effect upon each other. So I came up with the term for that: metabolic chaos. And I've been working on that mentality. Again, it's 10 years in the office. Then I started teaching, and I've been doing that since 2008. So it's been quite a journey.
Nice. I love that, though. I mean, it doesn't matter, how you, I don't want to say it doesn't matter how you coin it. It just matters of how we could get to the bottom of somebody's health, right? Doesn't matter if you're looking at one way or if you're looking at all, the different types of ways of, or, like you said, that there's one, like a headache, and there's 3 different things that's causing the headache, it's not just one thing. But however, we are treating that headache by getting deeper. I think that's it. It's just getting a deeper level instead of putting the Band-Aid on the headache, which, conventional doctors have a tendency to do, in all fairness, because of, timing and, all of that, insurance and all of that good stuff. But so were you raised kind of, in a healthy environment, or because how did you get into, you're just, I want to be healthy, like all of this stuff?
Always been an outdoors guy. I grew up in Canada. My dad was a hunter and fisherman, so Saturday mornings, 4:00 in the morning, we're up going fishing or going hunting, and learning to appreciate the sun and the sunrise. I was usually asleep in the back seat of the car, actually, but wondering why we were up so early. But no, that's how I grew up, playing hockey and hunting and fishing and doing things. We weren't allowed to stay inside. So yeah, absolutely. I got the outdoor and sort of nature in my bones. And it's never going to give that up.
Well, you shouldn't. I think nature is where it's at. I think we all need to get back to nature, right? That's, I mean, if you're talking root cause metabolic, what you do, that's fundamental. That's just my opinion. It's just fundamental to go back to nature, where you get away from all the technology and the hustle and bustle and the, computers and the Zoom and the Skype, and you just go out to nature, and that's who you are. So in all essence, hopefully, it kind of cures in certain respects a lot of ailments, just getting back to nature. So that's awesome that you're kind of, brought up in that environment.
Yeah, nature boy, not a city boy. But I mean, I get along in both worlds, but I'm also not a real tech freak. My staff, which I have a lot of now, in 2008, when I started teaching, it was just me and one assistant. I put on a weekend workshop because I knew that I could only see so many people in our office. I could help a lot of people. I built an amazing practice with just a pager and a fax machine.
Wow.
So that's how far back I go.
90s.
Pager and a fax machine. I mean, I'm talking about, the cell phone didn't come out till 2006 or 7 or something.
Yeah.
The little ones. So, so anyway, I built this huge business with little technology. And, but I knew around 2008, and I was also encouraged by a lot of people, you should be teaching because you can double, triple, quadruple. Well, now we have 500 practitioners that I've taught who are out there doing. So now we're really, really helping people, right?
Yeah.
But I did it all on low tech. My staff still laughs at me that I don't like to fuss around and things. I don't know what Instagram is really, but I'm in the point. Bother? Yeah. So love nature, love the fact that it works so well. There are laws of nature, and in our own bodies, we call that the innate intelligence. So all your cells, if you think about it, you don't have to teach them what their job is. Right. They know what their job is. You just have to provide all the things that are required for them to be able to do it, and remove the things that interfere with them doing it. So that's one of our basic philosophies, and it's very much a part of nature. The same intelligence that holds the sun and the moon and the star, everything going around the way it does. That's an intelligence, and it's in us, in every cell, tissue, organ, system, the whole organism. So that's what we focus on, not disease.
Great. Well, let's bring that up then. You're talking about business, you're talking about teaching. Let me ask you, so what is functional diagnostic nutrition? And What
Yeah.
impact were you looking to make in this world with it?
I was, first of all, I'll tell you, I might forget what you asked me because I have to tell this story
Okay.
about what drives me. What was the nature of the impetus behind it all?
Yes.
So many, even early on, I didn't know what I was doing, but I was doing a lot of it. I just had access to these labs and I was just running labs on everybody, trying to figure out what's wrong. You see, I couldn't get out a prescription pad, not a physician. I didn't want to. And people coming in our place, they weren't looking for that. They wanted answers, right? So I'm running all these labs. And a lady comes in one day for chiropractic care. And I was walking her back, and I actually am trained also in myofascial therapy. So I would give her some trigger point therapy and put a heat pack on her. And then the doctor would come in and adjust her and so on. So and I would counsel some of the patients on the nutrition and stuff. Anyway, she came in the office one day and I could tell she was down. I said, "What's wrong?" And she's, "Oh, it's this weight. I'm 40 pounds overweight and it just really sucks and stuff." And me, the cheerful helper dude, I say, "Well, what are we going to do about it? Let's see what we can do." She's, "Oh no, I'm on this medication for the hives, big patchy hives on her skin, like all over her body." And she says, "I've been on this medication for the hives for 2 years. And it's just really, it makes me gain weight and I can't do anything about it." And she relayed that she had been to the physician in the last couple of days and complained to him that the medication was making her fat and she was miserable. And he said, according to her, "Lady, you can be fat or you can have the hives." And she said, and I told him, "That's very depressing." And he said, "I'll be happy to give you some antidepressants
Oh,
for the depression around Pete." And listen, I said to her in my usual happy way, "Well, why didn't you ever look for why you get the hives?"
right.
And her neck snapped around so fast. What? I thought she wasn't going to need her adjustment. She looked like she hurt herself. She went so fast. And sure enough, we got her a couple of kits, sent her home. She did the kits. Within 9 days after getting the results and counseling on what we found, she was offered medication, called her doctor, said, "I'm not taking this anymore." And she was doing two things that she hadn't done in 2 years: taking hot showers and working out to the point of perspiration, to a sweat.
Wow.
She wasn't even able to do those things for even on the medication for 2 years. So
Wow.
it's completely changed life. Now, those kind of stories I have dozens of,
Hmm.
even in the early days with kids and with people with migraines. It was just story after story of successes and encouragement. And that's why I was doing what I was doing. But I was really doing it just to build my practice until one day a lab that I do business with, matter of fact, I'd just been out lecturing and coming back, I got some new clients from this lecture I gave and getting a lot of, good vibe stuff and making a good practice out of it. And this lab director calls me up and says, "Who the hell are you?" I go, "What do you mean?" He goes, well, who are you? How do you get to run so many labs? I said, "I don't know. I just like running labs." And I go out and I talk and I lecture. I have lots of people to work with. He goes, "Well, whatever you're doing, you should be teaching it because you by yourself, you run more labs." And he named a famous doctor and said, "That guy's got 5 doctors working for him. And you run just as many labs or more sometimes than they are." And I didn't know you couldn't do it. It's just one of those things you do because you don't know, you don't have any obstacles in your head.
Mhm.
And so I started seriously considered teaching, and probably 6 months later, I held my first class in 2008. And again, it was largely to multiply, what the good we were doing in the office. So that's what got me teaching. And now it's grown. We're in 50 countries. I have trained a few thousand people, but I have 500 actually active practitioners who are an alumni group. We're a community and very highly engaged and continuing education and staying up to the latest. This morning, I'll stop.
No,
And
no, go
no,
ahead.
this morning I finished lessons that I've been redoing since the end of last year. So I just reiterated and upgraded some of
Nice.
our lists, and I do that constantly. So I'm always bringing it up to speed, the latest, greatest, and it's quite an accomplishment. I felt very relieved. Finally finished this. My staff was ecstatic that this work project was finally done. But you know what? I didn't go anywhere. I ate lunch, came right back to my desk, and I've been here all afternoon, working, writing letters, providing some leadership in the community, and not going anywhere.
Yeah. So you love what you do, obviously. It's like it's a passion of yours. It's like it doesn't feel like work. It sounds like, you know.
Tell me how much work you think it was when another lady was in our office. This is many years ago. Again, one of those encouraging moments, and she was doing pretty well, and she said, do you work with children? And I said, and I thought, well, I've raised 4 kids. I have a football team. I coached football for 15 years. All these kids, year after year after year. Heck yeah, I work with kids, and never professionally as a client, but she says, well, my son is about to get kicked out of school. He's misbehaving. He's not paying attention. He's not getting good grades. He's poking around at the other kids, and they want to put him on drugs. And I said, well, how old is he? And she goes, 9. I thought when she was describing you, some little bad teenager or something. No, he's only 9. I said, well, do you think he has a drug deficiency? Like a Ritalin was the drug of choice back then, deficient? And she didn't laugh. I thought it was funny, but she said, no, I don't think so. And do you know, is there something? Anyway, so we ended up running some labs for the boy, and we'll call him Billy. And I kid you not, we got the lab test results, made some changes in his life. And within 3 weeks, the principal of a school tracked me down, got me on the phone and said, yeah, I'd like to know what you put Billy on. As if it was something, in a bottle or jar or something. Yeah. And it had nothing to do with putting him on something. It was all about getting him off of neurotoxins and irritants and things that were just bad for him in his environment, including foods he was eating and such. So, that's the kind of story you get that's you never forget. And is that work? Would that be work to you to be able to do?
Those stories, I mean, are so inspirational. It just keeps you going. It just keeps you wanting to do more and then some. So that's, I can just definitely understand that.
Yeah.
So no, I was just going to say, I love that you coined, I shouldn't say coined, but that you have the term test, don't guess, right? So the question is how, can you explain in detail how your functional lab screening and testing works at your place?
Yes.
Like how do you outsource it? Do you have labs? Like, how does that work in your place?
Sure. Well, at the time I was developing all of this, I worked under the doctors who were there, who just granted me that space and were, trusted me because of my background, and they could see that I wasn't going to be deterred anyway. But they supported me, and so that was easy for that, almost 10 years there. But then when I started teaching, mostly I teach non-licensed practitioners. And what I didn't know that I had actually developed a whole system of non-medical analysis and assessments and interpretations, if you will. So the physicians could look at a lab. By the way, they don't run the same labs. They run most of my, especially the women clients that we have now, they're being told after the physician orders a lab, nothing's wrong with you. There's nothing to look at here. Have you heard that before?
Yes, I have, which is very aggravating.
It's very aggravating and frustrating and sometimes depressing, and it can keep you spinning. So remember, my job for over 20 years has been stop the cycle of trial and error. Be someone who's going to be helpful
Right.
and get them off that hamster wheel, So I was running labs from the point of view that they didn't need another medical diagnosis. Oh, because physicians will look at all these numbers on a piece of paper, pick out the two that are high or low, and say, is there a diagnosis I could give? There's a DX code for everything so that you can bill the insurance company for your diagnosis.
Right.
It's just a bad model all the way around. Again, I didn't know walking into that job how bad things were, but because I'm not licensed to diagnose and treat anything specifically and didn't want to diagnose and treat anything, grant a full monopoly to that system, to those licensed to do so, who should be licensed, by the way, because it's dangerous. Drugs and surgery are dangerous and kills 250,000 people a year in the United States, but we don't go there. But I know the facts and the statistics. I come from that point of view that you got to know your stuff. So what I did is develop a system of non-medical analysis and assessments. It's just what's really wrong, what's upstream that's out of balance or dysfunction or that could use improvement.
Yeah.
And then applying general principles of health building, people make those improvements in a self-care model. And so that's the foundation and basis of our lab testing, to answer your question. So we use saliva testing, urine testing, stool testing, some blood testing. We try to make it as convenient as possible for people to do from home, cheap, if as cheap as you can get it. You're not going to spend a ton of money, but you do have to invest in labs and in someone that knows how to provide that non-medical.
Mm-hmm.
The last thing I'll say about the lab testing, unless you want to know more, is that keep in mind, this data that's on lab reports belongs to you, the public. You own it. It can't lawfully be withheld from you. Right. Although doctors are not turning over lab reports, the data belongs to you. You can go to someone else for a second medical opinion, or you can go to someone else for a non-medical analysis or assessment, interpretation, if you will. But that non-licensed person providing that kind of a assessment will not be giving you another diagnosis or treatment plan. So isn't that wonderful?
Yes. Yes.
It just, here's what's got to be fixed. And by the way, here's how you can fix it. So back to the original theme, control of one's health being in one's own hands.
Yeah.
And the freedom that comes from that, it is truly emancipating when you realize there's all these tools you can have access to, and people who really care and aren't going to just treat the paper with drugs.
Right. And that's amazing. And again, I go back to, just getting not just to the root, but just getting to that like baseline. It's data. It's real life data. This is your system. It's telling us this is what's happening to you or happening at this moment. It doesn't happen. It's not forever. It's at this moment. So kind of going along, obviously I'm getting a little bit specific about the test. What kind of tests do you do? I saw that you do like food sensitivity, GI tests.
Yeah.
What
there's
typically?
I'll give you a simple way to remember. It's called the hidden stressors and dysfunctions, HIDDEN. So we look at the hormones, the immune system, hormone immune, digestion, detoxification, HIDD. Now I worked with just that for years.
Yeah.
Making all these discoveries and HIDD, hormone immune digest. If you fix those, you fix almost everybody. Not that I'm fixing anyone, but you know what I'm trying to say.
Right.
Now, when I also learned about the proper diet and energy production from the right food combinations for you, and then nervous system balance. Yep. That spells HIDDEN.
I love it.
And we look there and just make all these discoveries about, and I call them healing opportunities. A phrase I borrowed from a great doctor a long time ago. He said, Reed, you're not diagnosing and treating, you're looking for healing opportunities. Well, yeah, that's right. And all these healing opportunities could be way upstream for where the symptoms are occurring. So you look at them, and by the way, they can be having an effect on each other. They can't be singly measured. So it takes some knowledge and training and experience, but I can teach anyone to do it. So
Yeah.
HIDDEN, that's the labs we run. A few labs, again, saliva, urine, blood stool, look at the hidden stressors and dysfunctions, healing opportunities, sometimes far removed. You wouldn't even believe they're associated with those symptoms sometimes, but they are, because of the way the body works. The
Yeah.
one phrase I did coin was metabolic chaos.
Yes.
That makes sense. Everybody can kind of get it, but it hadn't been put together that way. And that, by the way, is my one concern. If I had a diagnosis, that would be it. Because all of these dysfunctions upstream crashing into each other creates this chaos. It's metabolic chaos. And it becomes the really one concern. So we know how to sort it out with the HIDDEN lab work and things like that. And then, well, how do you get a person to fix that?
Mhm.
You have to, without treating anything specifically, because that's practicing medicine too.
Yeah.
Well, you give them things to do that have an effect on every cell, every tissue, every organ and system simultaneously. So what we say is we don't treat anything specifically. We treat everything non-specifically, using that innate intelligence, and it
Right.
just works. It outperforms any other system we've seen.
Right. Well, right, because we're a system, right? We're a whole being or a system. So you can't just pinpoint one thing. It has to be
We're
kind
a
of like
complex organism.
complex,
Yeah,
very.
and I mean, just even one little thing going on is you could just expand it and expand it and
Yeah.
expand it. It's really complex. So the acronym for the Holistic Lifestyle Grounding Program is DRESS:
Yeah.
diet, rest, exercise, stress reduction, and supplementation. So diet, right, for each person. Rest, early bed, early rise, all this stuff. Exercise, you can't be healthy if you don't do it. Stress reduction, you've heard that word stress before, right?
Oh goodness, this is what I teach a lot, or not teach, but this is what I help my clients a lot in. So we'll get more further into that. But yes, keep going.
Yeah, well, diet, rest, exercise, stress reduction is huge, and
Yes.
supplementation. I don't have my own line. I've resisted that. Been told I should
Love
have
it.
my own brand of supplements, but I know a lot about them, and know how to use them and teach people how to use them. But that stress reduction comes in many forms. You said that you really help people a lot.
Yeah,
Is it
stress
mostly with the
management.
mental emotional stress? Is that what you
All of
mean?
it. It's all of it. It's mental, it's emotional, it's physical. Well, let's just get into it, because I
Okay.
just adrenal fatigue, right?
Oh my
That was
goodness.
how I got into all of this, was because my own journey in being diagnosed by a functional medicine doctor with having adrenal fatigue. Now, I know that phrase is not, widely liked in the community, meaning fatigue. You can't really fatigue adrenals. However, that is just a common phrase. But going from that, learning what the reason for it kind of put me down that path of, okay, now I understand stress has a lot to do with not just the adrenals, but just the whole system, your whole being. Whether it's
You're not
mental,
kidding.
because it can start up here and it can go down, or it can go down and start down like digestion and go up. So either way, it's doing this circle, and you have to know how to manage it. And that's what I've been trying to perfect and help others to do.
And I'm sure you're doing amazing work, because you had know at least the rudiments, and the truth is that's good enough. Because if I went over the anatomy, physiology, and biochemistry of the adrenals and the hypothalamus pituitary adrenal axis,
Right.
everyone would be asleep in 5 minutes.
I know the
So
science of it is not fun.
Yeah, we can go there. I teach that in my course, because you got to know more than your clients. You got to know this stuff.
Right.
But suffice it to say that you're right. You're under various forms of stress. There's the mental, emotional, about it. If your boss yells at you, you get in an argument with your spouse, and money and kids, and life can be pretty stressful. Just getting cut off in traffic annoys the hell out of me. So I try not to,
The
you try
traffic in
not to let it
California,
bother
I
you.
mean.
Yeah. And so thank God I live out in the country, and I don't ride toward the city, San Diego. I ride towards the desert where there's nothing, but air and good things. But stress, it can be mental, emotional, even spiritual. I call it existential angst, where you just no purpose, you're not having any fun, you don't know what you're on the planet for, and things. So there's all of that. And at the same time, you mentioned physical, which absolutely. I started in a chiropractic clinic. It was a wellness center. We had lots of modalities and things, but I've got my boo-boos, from sports, from football, from surfing, from skiing, and so on. A couple of motorcycle accidents, and aches and pains are another form of stress. And your body responds the same to those aches and pain. If you can't sleep because your neck's hurting, your body has that same, it's that HP adrenal axis that kicks in, the cortisol levels, and your DHEA goes to hell, which is the parent of your sex hormones, So you got all this mental, emotional stuff. You got all this physical trauma built up. Even you might have been in a car accident 10 years ago, it could still be having an effect. Or kid, you fell off a swing, whatever it is, could still be affecting you if you haven't fixed it. And last but not least, and where I learned to specialize, remember, I came out of environmental, looking at nature and what's anti-nature and things. And man, there is so much chemical and biochemical stress. So we won't talk about the 80,000 chemicals that were in the environment. And every person consumes about 2 barrelfuls a year, especially if you're not eating organic, and on and on. So there's the mental, emotional stress, and there's the physical stress, and there's the chemical, biochemical stressors, and it can have a devastating effect depending on the person and your ability to handle it, which could come from mental ways you handle things, your point of view and stuff. But more importantly, probably is genetic potential, or just as important, some people can take a beating. You'd be really surprised what they can live with. Other people, not so much. They fall down at the smallest thing you'd think. So anyway, there's a lot going on, and the body responds appropriately. It's a survival mechanism. And so, depending, again, a lot on genetic potential, we survive, and we try to thrive and be happy. But what I got used to doing was actually measuring people's current status. Like you said, these are moving targets. They go up and down a little bit, but you can get an assessment, like how are my adrenal glands, and it's really much more than that. How are they doing? How's your liver doing? How's your digestion and detoxification system doing? How's your immune system? Is it overactive or underactive? Are you prepared for the next wave of whatever the hell's going to come down the pipes? You know what I mean? So we have markers for these areas of function that are just critical to being vibrant and healthy. I'll go back to the adrenals for a sec, because you mentioned it. Yeah, adrenal fatigue, when I started, was an accepted and very useful construct, but it was never really more than that, just a model. The physiology was never written in stone at the time. It was just a model, because they produce most of your cortisol. There's some other areas you can get cortisol from, but most of it's coming from the adrenals. And so when your cortisol went down after you're under stress for a long, long time, first it's high. We call that the acute state, maybe. But then your body starts to wear down, and cortisol itself has a catabolic effect. It breaks your body down on purpose. Without the anabolic steroid hormones to counter regulate it, you can be in trouble. So we measure those things. Whether we call it adrenal fatigue doesn't really matter. The construct was sound in that we do some measurements and say, pardon me, hey lady, look what's going on. If you don't take stock of what's going on right now, this is only going to get worse. And people are going, yeah, no, no stuff. I
Yeah,
mean,
you could swear
that's
yourself
how
in.
they feel. So when you can show someone on paper why they feel so lousy, when the physician told them nothing's wrong with you, you're kind of the hero. I don't do this for the accolades or the money. I do it for that joy that I was telling you about, and the rest comes along with it. You take that in stride.
Of course. Yeah. No, that's amazing. It's always good to know, again, like I say, it's always good to know where you're at in your body. And one thing that you were talking about, environment and toxins and stuff, that's one thing that was actually a red flag on my test, was the
Mm,
toxicity.
yeah.
And digestion. So, which leads me into the next question is, how important then is the digestion? Because I know you have
Mm.
DRESS, so, or hidden, which I love the acronyms, by the way. I think they're really a great thing to have, because it's just easier to understand. But the acronyms are just amazing. So
Oh,
how
thank you.
important is digestion in all of this, in
Uh,
helping get over get better markers, so to speak?
yeah. Well, if you understand nutritional needs, the vitamins, the minerals, the essential fatty acids, the antioxidants, the amino acids, the trace elements, the phytonutrients and things, these are required in different varying amounts depending on you. And so it varies, but we all need them, and they're supposed to come from food. And I'll just throw in that that's why we like supplements, because they can substitute for what's missing in food. Food kind of sucks nowadays. It's just too commercially grown. The soils are depleted, and on and on. So when you understand nutrient needs, balances, and things like that, and you understand food, even the supplements, then what's next? Breaking it down and absorbing it into your body, like to feed and nourish the cells, which know what kind of tissue they're in, which knows what kind of an organ it's a part of and what system it's in. You don't have to teach any of that stuff. You just have to get the nutrients in there. So we call it digestion. Most of that takes place in the mouth and in the stomach. The actual breakdown, the assimilation of the nutrients, the little tiny parts that go in. By the way, they go in through the small intestine, not the stomach. The villi, the little fingers, things diffuse through there. Sugar can get in different ways. Alcohol can get in, even starting in the mouth. But I won't go through a dissertation on digestion. Again, we don't want to put people to sleep. But proper digestion begins with hopefully looking and smelling at food, and it gets the juices flowing. We used to take the time. Mom would be cooking, and you're like, you start getting hungry. Like it gets the stuff. So there's a natural, back to nature. We're talking. There's a nature way to sort of properly eat. Break down and absorb food. As to how well that's happening in the population today, I can assure you it's not optimum.
Yeah.
It's less than optimum. We have, some people have a gut, we could just call it the gut in general. Could be your stomach, your small intestine, your large intestine, organs around there, the gut. They're very dysfunctional. So people aren't getting the nutrients. They could be spending all this money on fresh, which you should, fresh organic vegetables. Really important to avoid the pesticides and herbicides and rodenticides and all the other things they put on there. But if you aren't breaking it down and absorbing it, you're pooping it out, frankly. And so you're missing the nutrients your body needs. You actually could be malnourished. It can get that bad. Well, I don't know. I eat 3 meals a day and they're really high quality food and all this, but I'm not well. Part of that could be malnutrition from malabsorption and not assimilating things properly.
Yeah.
Is
No,
that a decent answer for now?
yes. And, I'm going to tag on to that, because again, I kind of bring in the whole personal journey. That's exactly what happened to me. I wasn't digesting because of the stress. I wasn't eating. I wasn't slowing down. Wasn't smelling my food. I wasn't tasting my food. I was eating at my desk in a hurry or stressed out. And that just, it doesn't properly digest or break down the food, properly. So what ended up happening was I was deficient in all B vitamins. So that again brought down my energy levels. So it all, again, as you were saying, it all plays a part, right? It all plays a part in our system. So if one thing's out, let's see, another thing has to be out, because it all comes together and plays a part. So I took digestive enzymes, and of course, slowed down, been, not drinking water as I eat food, and not, just basically smelling my food and breathing as you eat. And it helped.
Yeah. I mean, the dinner table was the place where you would get refueled, build up your energy, and be completely satisfied. A proper meal is very satiating, right. And you even get a sense of well-being out of it, when it's the right meal. Even a couple hours later, you should have that energy. You should be fully satisfied. You shouldn't be craving anything, right. And you should have that sense of well-being. Unless someone just punch you in the nose or something, right? Then it's okay to be a little upset. If you're upset for no reason, that's not normal.
No.
And people walk around cranky, and it could be they're not getting the right fuel in, or they're not assimilating it properly. That's actually one of our homework assignments we give clients is after a meal, write down, we have a little checklist they can do, diet check record, created by a good friend of mine, by the way. If anyone wants a good book on diet, it's called The Metabolic Typing Diet by William Wolcott. And it's an amazing book, changed my life. But, this diet check record is, 2 hours after you eat, 90 minutes. What is your sense of energy? Is it really good, strong energy to do some work or have some fun? Or is it like tired and wired? You're underneath it's just nervous energy. That's not the same thing. It might be coffee energy or something. Now, at the same time, you want to be fully satisfied, not be craving anything. It should feel like that meal was a great meal. Right. And you should be pretty happy. Everyone should be happy anyway, right?
That's our goal. That's our goal in life.
Yeah, it's that sense of well-being, I've learned to call it. That everything seems okay. Well, that would indicate you had a pretty good fuel mixture. You fueled up your body properly.
Yeah. Nice. Perfect. Love it. Well, Reed, I can talk with you forever. Like, I love, this is the information that I love to not only intake for myself, but for my listeners. So I can definitely talk to you forever. However, I know that we both have other things to do, so I will not keep you. Where can people find you? Where can people reach out to you? All of that good stuff.
Yeah. So it's FDN, as in Functional Diagnostic Nutrition. You don't have to spell it out. FDN Thrive. THRIV, because we want to thrive, rhymes with alive, thrive, so fdnthrive.com/root health.
Nice.
fdnthrive.com/root health. And we'd love to see you there. Go visit. We don't guarantee we can help every single person. We guarantee we want to, and we can determine very quickly if we can help you. I would never try to sell anyone a package or try this and try that and try that. No, first we go through a very simple process of determining, can we help you? And let's hope it answers yes.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, that's all we ask for, right? That's all we ask for is to help. And not, it's kind of like under promise, over deliver. So
absolutely,
it's mostly, yeah.
And I want to thank you for having me, but also for reminding me that walking the talk is really critical, because I work really hard still. I love it. And again, I don't call it work really, but I get pretty consumed in what we're doing here. And I'll go out to the kitchen, and my wife, we cook dinner a lot together, but sometimes And I'll end up still start to eat, just stand. She goes, we're not going to stand and eat. We're going to go and sit down.
Yeah.
We're going to, chill. We're going to make sure more,
Yeah.
more like a mom than a wife sometimes, but I got it. And thank you for reminding me, as my wife does, that we got to walk the talk.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we have to be healthy ourselves, and we have to live, I don't want to say we're never perfect, right? It's never going to be perfect. It's just more or less like we understand how important it is to, live a healthier life. And this is, again, what we teach, we also need to learn, right?
We'll have to do a show on that sometime.
Yes, I know. Second part, we'll do that.
Okay.
But last question I want to leave you with is just what is a favorite quote of yours or a word of wisdom or inspiration?
Gosh, I have so many. I don't want to be too corny and make it just up every day very early, because I go to bed real early. So I'm up like my daddy taught me, usually before the sun, and I try to give a moment of thanks. And I really look out and try to find something good. I don't have to look far because I live pretty much on a resort. But the cup is half full, not half empty.
Like that.
And sometimes it runneth over.
Nice. Nice. I love it. I love
That's
it.
how I feel about it. It starts off with your point of view.
Yeah, it is. It's all perspective, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you so much, Reed. It has been a pleasure to have you on here. Maybe we will do a part 2 and we'll talk about other things as well. So I would love to do that and get connected again.
Let me know if people go to that fdnthrive.com/root health. And Eve, you don't have to buy anything. We're not going to sell you anything. Just go and look. They don't know your audience is following us a little bit.
Yeah.
And we'll know that they want to have me back. So if you liked me, go and visit the website. We'll give free stuff. There's some free stuff there. Yeah. And hope it helps at some point.
Awesome.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth.
Well, thank you again. And you take care.
All right. See you later. Bye.
Bye.